Our belief in nutrition at Street Parking mirrors what we believe in when it comes to fitness. Consistency is everything. The fitness industry will tell you that you need to do more, when oftentimes you need to do less with more focus. At Street Parking, we offer general nutrition support. So if you have any questions about nutrition, you need help, advice, we're here for you. We also give you a roadmap of where to start with your nutrition, some small changes you can make, and slowly implementing them and creating habits. Then from there, we actually have the opportunity for you guys to purchase a Street Parking nutrition template. Those templates provide you an adequate amount of protein, carbs, and fat, as well as a list for you to follow for foods, depending on your goals. We're not after drastic changes, but sustainable habits. Sticking with the basics like getting in your protein, your fruits and veggies, your water, sleeping enough, because those habits and that consistency will last you for a lifetime.
All right, what's up? We're back. It's Tuesday. What's the date today? January 19th, right? And we're back at the Coaches Roundtable today, and today we're pulling another topic from the Street Parking Unlocked series, which is a series of emails that we send out to our members when they first join. This is actually the last one in the series. We skipped forward a little bit because I think it's an important thing all the time, but especially as people are taking on new habits and they're trying to make changes, and it's the idea that comparison is the thief of joy. Does anybody know where did that originate from? Jeb, I feel like you probably know who said that originally.
As far as I know, it's Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, that goes back.
Fact check.
That sounds accurate.
That sounds 100% accurate.
So comparison is a thief of joy. What does that mean? It's that we can feel good about something. We can feel like we're on track. We can feel like we're making progress. And as soon as we start to compare ourselves with other people, sometimes that can make us feel even better because we're like, oh, well, I'm doing better than this person. Oftentimes what happens, and I think what happens so commonly now in this age of the internet and social media, is it is very easy to find somebody who's doing it better than we are, or who is having an easier time of something, or who is having better results, or who is more attractive, or who has a cooler house, or whatever it might be. We start comparing our life to other people, our results to other people's, and it can take the progress that we've made that we might have been super happy with before we opened Instagram or social media, and all of a sudden now we're feeling like it's not enough. And I think it's a huge problem in the world in general, but it's a very big problem in the fitness industry and in just the health industry. Is it's really being used for marketing, and it's making people go a little crazy, I think. So we're going to be talking about that today. In the write-up that we use on the Street Parking members email and in that Unlocked series, we talk a lot about leaderboarding, because leaderboarding is comparing your workout scores to other people. So that email talks a lot about that. But as mentioned, it's a much bigger issue than just comparing workout scores. And so I think today we'll take it a little bit further than that. I don't know if you guys have thought about, because you knew that was going to be the topic today, like some more recent things that maybe where you've allowed comparison to kind of steal your joy. Mine happened last night because Molly, who you saw in the video before, she's my friend. We've been friends. We've been working out together we met in 2013. So, going on 8 years now. She's 3 months postpartum and just crushes me in these workouts. And especially a burpee workout. No, whatever. We're not together. We didn't do the same version. But that's just an example. I did the Knicks workout, and I'm like listening to her score, and I'm like, I don't think I could have gotten that. I don't think I could do that. How is she crushing me? She's only 3 weeks postpartum. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? And, it's that cycle that we all go through. So that was my most recent allowing Molly's fitness to steal my joy last night. You guys have recent times for you?
I mean, yeah. Fitness-wise, it not super recent, because I've kind of stopped comparing myself to anybody fitness-wise a long time ago. For this very reason, because it will steal your joy. And I think upward comparison and downward comparison too are really important to look at it both ways. But in terms of comparing myself to others, what I've noticed a lot is in parenting and like in the neighborhood.
Don't even get started.
Oh my gosh, I thought I had this like whole comparison thing beat, and then it's like you see the neighbors and like what they're doing with their kids, or like what they're doing to their house.
Or even like what their kid is able to do that maybe your kid can't do yet, and they're the same age or whatever.
Totally.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think Carolina and I both have really had to check ourselves, and it's just a whole nother level of challenge and opportunity to be reminded of this concept.
Was there a certain instance that you're thinking of where this parenting thing came in?
I mean, I can't think of anything specific right now. Maybe it'll come to me, but there's been a bunch, and like, yeah, there's definitely, like super dads, in the neighborhood. And it's like,
What makes them a super dad?
you know what I mean? It's like the guy that's always out there, like working on the yard, and then how it has some crazy weekend activity planned for all the kids, and then like they've got all these crazy electronic go-kart toys and stuff, like, they're just crushing everything. Yeah, and like I'm like, did she eat yet? Like, so yeah.
All right, I have one. About to get real. This roundtable has been it had been really hard for me. And I actually, someone posted in, I think, the Control Your Fitness Facebook group today about imposter syndrome. And I was like, yeah, I experience that pretty much on a daily basis, because I'm like, what am I doing here sitting next to these 3 amazing people? And I'm comparing myself, and it's like, well, yeah, of course you're struggling. Like, you're comparing yourself to really amazing people, and you're having to, learn some new things. I'm being challenged, that kind of stuff. So, but for a while it was stealing my joy in a big way. I know, yeah. But I'm overcoming that, and I'm accepting where I am right now and moving forward from there. So, yeah.
Isn't that funny too? Because, like, taking it back to, if Molly knew that I was like, mad or whatever, that she was just so fit, and I let it get to me, that would make her feel terrible. And like you just saying that, like, oh my gosh, like I would never want you to feel that way. That makes us feel terrible. And so now you're stealing your own joy and the person you're comparing yourself to.
Whoops.
I'm interested to hear what yours might be.
There's so many. Obviously, Jeb brings up a good point when it comes to your children and how that can get very difficult. But I won't go into that just because that's a deep one for sure. There's a couple fitness related items. There was one. The reason why I chose to. There was a moment where I wanted to improve on my body fat percentage because there was a certain individual athlete that has his own program as well that is just jacked, and we've competed together in competitions, and I wanted to see. Yeah, I looked at him and I wanted to get to where he was, so I pushed myself and I was able to achieve it. But once I got there,
Was it Jed?
no. But once I got there, I realized how different our lifestyles are completely, and how I needed to kind of tone it back and being realistic to what is it that I do, what is my lifestyle, what is my training methodology, how do I approach things. And then once I had a realization with that, it was easier for me to get back in my own lane, pretty much. Another one is anytime, I think me and you kind of go through this, anytime because we competed at the highest level of, competition when it comes to CrossFit, anytime the Open comes around, or anytime, you see these athletes and you're watching the CrossFit Games, it's easy to compare and see, oh man, I would never get scores anywhere close to that. And you can kind of sulk back and look at the glory days. But then again, all that has taken to snap out of that was going heavier in a street parking workout with intensity, and you realize, oh, no, I'm broken. Like this really hurts. And you kind of wrangle yourself back in and realizing that there was a time and a place and a purpose, and we're still in really, really good shape, far beyond, the average. And we're living a good, healthy lifestyle. It's very well balanced. It's more peaceful. It's a more peaceful environment. It's not stressful anymore. And you start remembering all those things that were the negatives of that lifestyle, and it kind of brings you back into appreciating, again, to where you're at and not comparing yourself anymore to those individuals.
Yeah, and I think it would be silly and hypocritical for us to sit up here and say that, like, competition is never a good thing and comparison is never a good thing, because all of us here and most people in their lives, if they've achieved something that they didn't know they could achieve, or maybe they, have used competition in some way to fuel an effort that got them further than they could have ever expected. And I know that's been true for me, like in competition with fitness, but also I felt the same way when I was first working like the CrossFit seminars and stuff. It's like, what am I doing here? Why am I the person answering the questions? And I'm surrounded by these trainers who are so much smarter than me, and but it forced me to step up my game. And so I think competition, there is a time and place for it. And, right as we were prepping for the show, I was like, well, when is that time and place? When is it? First of all, I think competition, specifically like the type of competition that you might see where you're looking at scores on the leaderboard for like workouts and things like that, or a sport, it can be really beneficial if the people you're competing against are close to you in their ability. So they're not so much better than you at whatever you're competing in that it's just like unattainable, because that's just demoralizing. But you're not like the best person by far competing, because that now you're just gonna skirt along and it's not gonna make you better. Everybody involved in the competition should know they're involved in the competition, for it to be like a healthy environment. So if you're competing against somebody that doesn't even know they're in a competition with you, and I think that's what happens a lot of times on the street parking page, is like you have these people that are like going on Facebook and like calling people out for, their scores or their range of motion or whatever. And the person was just posting their video to show like, hey, I worked out today. Like it's not a competition in that sense. Someone's turning it into that. So I think signing up for online competitions or local competitions or things like that is a great way to push yourself and see what you're made of and push yourself outside of your comfort zone. You will probably end up going harder in the workouts and things like that, but it shouldn't be your every single day to day. It should be like a short window, whether it's a couple week long thing or like a weekend thing or something like that. But I think where people have this idea of life, just everything in life being a competition, which is these two over here, because they're threes, Enneagram threes. If you guys follow the Enneagram, look at these two for the achievers, where you can turn anything into a competition when you have that kind of mindset.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me a lot, just because, right, we don't do regular competitions anymore. So for me, I've found if I'm able to take things in my day-to-day life and add stakes to them, it pushes me out of my comfort zone, and it allows me to continue to progress, because I don't ever want to settle with who I am right now, right? I know as I get older, I'm going to have to tone back a little bit more of the things that I do, right? Or go lighter in weight, or just be realistic with where my fitness is at, right? But for now, I still feel great. I still feel healthy. I like to get pushed by the people around me. I mean, it wasn't long ago where I think I lost in a biker to Nicole, and we, we're in different fitness levels, but we made it. So we challenged each other and we went for it. And I may have lost the biker, but that was a really, really good workout day for me. And I liked it because that was me progressing as well. So I found ways to kind of allow myself to have healthy competition without it consuming me, which has been really good for me, honestly. It's been a healthy balance.
And I think we do it in the garage a lot. And I think that there is something to it's in person and we're friends and we know each other, and the people involved usually want to participate in the competition. Not all the time, but usually they've agreed to like, okay, I got you, like, like the you and Nicole thing. So I think all of that stuff is awesome. Where it starts to get into, I'm now looking at strangers that I've never met before that don't know that I'm looking at their stuff, and I'm like comparing. You know, you've probably heard that social media is everyone's highlight reel. And I even think of what Jeb was talking about with that dad. I can guarantee you that dad looks at you, Jeb, and is like, this guy's crushing it. Look, he's like fit. He's like working out all the time in his garage. And I mean, I don't know what this person looks like, but I'm assuming, you know, you're pretty jacked, Jeb. So I'm assuming he doesn't look like you. I bet it's going both ways, and neither one of you even know it. So, of course, you're seeing his highlight of him having all this cool stuff for his kids. He's seeing the good in you with like how you're diligent with your fitness and how you look and things like that. It's just a rabbit hole that is so hard not to go down. I think it's human nature for us to compare ourselves to each other. It's how we decide if we're like doing okay in a lot of ways. I mean, it's conditioned from the time we go to school to like grades and all of that stuff. But it's not the best way, because at the end of the day, let's take it back to fitness. Are you working out to win the fitness for the day, or are you working out to improve your overall health? And winning is not at all why anyone joins street parking. Maybe some of the other programs out there, that is why they join and they want to compare their scores, but I don't think that's most people's motivations in our program. So it's like, why are you so hyper focused on that, and how can we help you to step back from that and use it in a more meaningful way when it's appropriate?
Well, so one of the things I've noticed is we get that the overall message is you have to have purpose in order for you to try in something. But sometimes that can get very difficult. Even though you have purpose, you have to have micro wins or micro challenges, in the sense of, you know, it's easier for us to try harder if there's some kind of little dangling carrot. A daily dangling carrot is very helpful for me to stay motivated in this long-term journey that is, you know, fitness and health, right? So by creative little, you know, for me, my environment is creating these little small stakes with the team around me, just so I'm able to overcome those difficult days. And because it's hard for you to try in something if you don't care about it. And there are going to be those days where you don't care about fitness, even though you know how important it really is. I think this goes towards a lot of people that work out at home alone. We're very privileged to have the opportunity to be, you know, with the staff, and everybody has this mindset of, you know, I'm trying to get better. But for those you individuals who work out alone in your garage at home, it is difficult. And don't think that we're out here preaching, oh, it's easy, you just have to find purpose. Well, even once you have found purpose, you're going to have to also find what pushes you on a daily basis to keep you on track for the longevity of things. And like I said, for us, that's why we're here to offer you little tips. For me, it's finding somebody that's working out with me that day, you know, whether it be Miranda, Alex, Jeb, Nicole, Aki, whatever, or Salvi, to challenge each other to better ourselves every day.
Jeb, how did you get over, because you said you've been pretty good about not comparing yourself fitness-wise, when you're surrounded by people who work out together every day and 33,000 people talking about it all day long on Facebook. How did you get over that comparison in your life?
So, if I'm being perfectly honest here, so basically, if in terms of competition, right, to really get the level of arousal that's needed to put your full effort into a competition, there needs to be like a 50-50 chance of being able to win. And I feel like for a while I was like going super hard, and I got close to Julian sometimes. And one time at summer camp, when there was running and assault bike, I won a workout because that's all it was. You know, and then I realized like this is just honestly, I started to get some tendonitis in my knees and like feeling my body like breaking down. And I was like, well, this isn't going anywhere for me. And honestly, it's not inspiring me. I love working out with everybody, but the idea of trying to win at exercise, especially when we're kind of, even though we're doing the same workout, we're kind of all doing something a little bit different. So there really is no way to win. And then also seeing a lot of the people, not a lot of people, but it does kind of, I feel it deeply when I see people either message me or email or whatever and think that they somehow did less of a workout because they had to change it or make it easier, or there was a movement they couldn't do, or something. And so for me, I kind of felt like, well, I can just run my own race here, and that's what I keep trying to tell everybody to do when I'm doing Jeb and Flow, when I'm doing emailing, when I'm DMing with people, is like just run your own race, hike your own hike. So why not just set that example and work out and lead by example with my workouts? And it's become very enjoyable for me, actually. My consistency has increased, and my body feels better than it's felt in a long time.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we talked about on a recent coaches roundtable. I can't remember which one it was, but like where you'll see these people who care so much about winning that if they don't think they have a chance to win, if they're feeling crappy or if the workout's not in their wheelhouse or whatever, they just won't work out. And that really impacts their consistency a lot. And so in the long term, they're going to see less results. They're more likely to get injured because they're doing, dumb stuff, or they feel like they have to use a certain weight because so-and-so is using it. And I think comparison and competition can make you raise the bar and push you when it's appropriate. But an example that I gave on our Facebook group a little while ago is that it can also lower your bar, and you can actually end up using less intensity because let's say Jeb and I are doing a workout that's completely in my wheelhouse because I'm 5'5" and he's super tall, and it's like burpees and air squats or something like that, and my goal is just to beat Jeb. I could potentially go slower maybe than I'm capable of because all I care about is beating him, not in doing the best that I can possibly do. Mm-hmm. And so we see that with people as well, where it's like, oh, well, RX, which is something that we use in street parking that we won't use forever, but it's like a suggested weight, right? Well, I'm only going to use RX even though I'm capable of going heavier because I want to be able to compare my score, when actually, why don't you use a heavier weight because you're so fit, but then my score won't be as good and I can't compare it. But was it a better workout? So I've seen it go both ways, where people are actually doing less than they're capable of because all they care about is the minimum required to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it comes down to like answering that question for yourself. Like, does this inspire me? If comparing myself to the people around me or comparing performances or whatever, does this inspire me and make me like just fired up and positively excited, enthusiastic about doing better, mm-hmm. Or about training a little bit harder? Or does this make me feel not good, Yeah.
Just anxious?
Yeah.
I'm just an anxious person. Right before we started, Alex and I were talking about like, one of the things that we suggest for people is it's you versus you, right? Like, how are you improving? How did you PR from last time we did this? The vault is a great test of that because it's 25 workouts that we'll retest in 6 months. That can also be, it can be great. I think it's a much better option than comparing yourself to anyone else ever. But it doesn't always work because sometimes you're you versus you. If I go back far enough, there is no way. 2015 Miranda crushes 2021 Miranda. And so if I go into that rabbit hole, it can be just as negative and I can get just as down on myself. And we were kind of talking about that before we started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was never on the level that Miranda was. But, yeah, I've talked with Jeb, too, about it. Like, I have had to let go of you versus you even. So it kind of, I think, has evolved where I spent a lot of time in my fitness career comparing myself to other people, and then evolved into, oh, no, I'm just going to compare myself to myself. And now I'm at the point where, don't get me wrong, I'm actually still pretty freaking fit, especially when I compare it to how I was. But, yeah, some of the things I was able to do because I was training just more frequently, I can't do anymore. And if I get caught up on that, then I get super discouraged. So I did have something I wanted to add too, though. I remember, I think within like my first 6 months, definitely my first year of starting CrossFit, I was so inspired. Like I was so excited and just things were just clicking and I was making so much progress, and I entered my first competition and I had absolutely no expectations whatsoever. I was like, this is just going to be fun. And I ended up placing third. And yeah, it was like just so pure and genuine, like joy. Like I was just like, wow, look at what I did. And it's just me like just enjoying the process and just enjoying what I was doing. But then I was like, I have this expectation for myself. I'm going to enter into competitions and I'm going to get top 3 every time. And I think the next competition, I mean, I placed top 3, but there was this idea attached, or this like outcome attached to it. And I was super upset with myself with how I did. And I was like, I took that time to kind of just assess like why. I was so pleased after the first competition. Why do I feel like what I've done is less than what I did before? And it's because I compared myself to what everyone else had done. So that was important. And I think why we made the mindfulness task for Control Your Fitness, the first one was focusing on like what you can control versus what you can't control, because that was a really important lesson for me to learn. Like the first time, all I cared about what was within my hula hoop. What could I do? If that got me third place, awesome. But then it was, okay, well, what are they doing? And how does that compare? What am I doing? And all of that just kind of like jumbled up and befuddled. And now what I accomplished, which was, I think, even better. I think I placed second. But it didn't bring me that joy. So I think a big part of letting go of that is solely focusing on what do I have control over. And I think where competition is good is where I can look to someone and say, like, what do they have control over that I'm missing? And then using that and kind of like taking it in and being like, oh, okay, well, Julian uses stakes. Like he does that. Like, okay, well, maybe that's something I can use, but I don't have to necessarily compare my scores to Julian, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about next is, going back to Atomic Habits, which we've talked about a lot. Just because something can be measured doesn't mean that it's the most important thing. So I think the reason why people attach themselves so much to scores, or it can go past that, anything numerical, weight, body fat percentage, Instagram followers, likes on a photo, like whatever it is, right? It's that number, so it's very easy to measure that next to somebody else's, whatever the thing might be. And just because something can be measured doesn't mean it's the most important thing. So taking scores out of it, maybe Alex and I talking about this, like, I don't want to compare myself to my old self. Well, maybe not my scores, but there are other ways to measure success. You can measure your consistency. You can measure your sleep. You can measure the balance. My life is so much more balanced, is so much more full. And it's not that my life was bad back then. I was zoned in on what I was doing, but now I have this amazing husband and these 2 amazing boys and this, business and all of this stuff. And it's like, let's detach our self-worth from just the things that we can put a number to, because I think that's the easiest way, because it's like, well, how do I measure my fullness of my life to somebody? You don't. You just measure yours and you see if it's improving and going in the direction that you would want it to go in. But it's where it's anything that has a number, I've noticed, is where people get a little, they latch themselves onto it a little bit too hard.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff here. I'm curious to see what any of the questions that are being asked. We can hit some of those. What you got, Nicole?
Earlier you guys talked a little bit about like small wins and micro wins. How can someone find those? Because it's one thing to say, oh, find the little wins, but what's a good example of a little win?
Okay, so a good example is, let's just say you take a street parking workout, and this is going to be fitness related because this is the topic, right, with street parking. you can take out what the workout is and look at the goal times and maybe shoot to aim for a certain window in the goal time and try to really, really stick to that based off of your own personal fitness ability and make that a challenge, right? Because you also have to be realistic for, like, just say, for example, me, if I haven't slept good, I haven't eaten the right meal throughout the day or something, I know it's unrealistic to shoot for this time frame for me. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a range to aim for, so at least I still have something to hold on to, but it's not so strict and dialed in. And that, for me, gives me fulfillment that, okay, I've got my micro win in for the day when it comes to assessing the daily workouts.
I think you can see examples of that too, like on the challenge that we're doing right now, where it's like, if nothing else, I'm going to make sure I get 2 servings of veggies today. Like little wins where it's just for today. Like, what's going to be my focus for today? What's going to be my focus for this week? And not try to think too far past that. And again, be careful of attaching it to your score. Be careful of attaching it to, this week I'm going to lose 2 pounds no matter what, because there's so much of that that's out of our control. And where, let's say you decide, I'm going to go sub 15 on this workout today no matter what, and you get 15:10. Now all of a sudden you're a failure, even though you went really, really hard on the workout. So you want to be careful of those wins always being attached to, again, like number-based things.
You spoke a little bit about you versus you. What about the people, though, who are maybe comparing themselves to pre-child them? Or, I feel like there might be a window with that you versus you. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for me, I think I've been through so many things at this point that has made you versus you hard for the past 9 years, whether it was from when I was in my car accident and hurt my neck, and then I actually had a moment of joy like what you were talking about when the next year I went and competed, and I was just so happy that I was not paralyzed, that I was on cloud 9 until I won the first workout. The rest of the workout sucked. I did not expect to win the first workout, and then it's like now I feel like I have to win the regionals, or I failed somehow. So, but then it's like the knee and the pregnancies and all of that stuff. Again, I have developed this like joy again to be like, oh my gosh, I haven't done that since I had the baby. That's so awesome. Instead of like, oh yeah, I cleaned whatever weight, but before I ever had babies and before I got injured, I could do so much more than that. I feel like I've done a pretty good job of being like, oh my gosh, I haven't done that for 2 years because I was pregnant and then postpartum, and that's so exciting. I think having injuries or setbacks or pregnancy gives you an opportunity to start over, and you almost can feel like a new person all over again, and treating it that way as opposed to going super deep back.
I think with that, it's kind of a bit of, instead of better than you from 3 years ago, it's better than you from yesterday.
Exactly. I think if you're going to compare yourself to yourself, it needs to be a little bit closer and more recent. And of course, it works really well for people if they've just started their fitness journey to compare themselves to where they were even like 2 years ago. But if you have a history of being at a high level, it can bite you in the butt more than be helpful.
Julian, you talked a bit about having like a healthy competition. I think people get a little bit confused. They hear competition and they hear just, really going for it. How could you recommend someone still be competitive like you are, but without dragging everybody into it and basically bullying their friends?
I'll rope Jeb in a little bit. How have you felt we've approached this? Because we've done it numerous times, right? Made things competitive, but also in a healthy manner.
Like you and me personally, or just
Sure. I mean, the whole crew in general.
Okay, so I mean, I think you are a very competitive person, right? And that is what helps, like you're saying, creating those kinds of stakes keeps you really into it. And I think that in order to keep everyone else into it, it's kind of creating those stakes or including them in all of that. So like one thing that I was just thinking about, you mentioned, was how you and Nicole did the what was it, bike and something else?
It was something, but the stakes were a biker, correct?
Yeah, and so what you did was essentially tweaked the workout so that you had that 50-50 shot of winning. Like, you both had a 50-50 shot of winning. And so I think that created enough of arousal point, for you guys both to really buy into that workout. That is a scientific word, arousal. Get your heads out of the gutter, you guys.
I'm just saying, you said arousal like
Snickering
3
every
times.
time I say it. So, okay, where am I with all of this? Yeah, so I think that the healthiness, I guess you could say, of the competition comes from 2 things. Number one, it has to be a certain level of competition so that there's the buy-in for it. And then I think, honestly, what we all probably realize is that, like, it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Like, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't really matter. We're just having fun. And, Miranda's probably, I don't know how she does it. She's probably like the greatest heckler I have ever seen. Somehow Miranda can make fun of you.
I have 4 brothers.
But you can take these really sharp jabs, but somehow they're not offensive. Like, they're hilarious. If I said the same thing, people would be like, dude, that guy is such a jerk. So yeah, I think it's the spirit of it all, where it keeps it light, and I think we all have an understanding that we're going to go on about our business after this workout. We're going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to do it again. So there's not a whole lot of emotion attached to it. And I think that that's kind of where it comes down to.
And I think going back to, again, like when you've been pregnant or you've been injured, and I know Alex has been like going through this more recently, when you go through something like that forces you to take yourself out of that mindset where you cannot compete with other people, or you definitely should not be trying to. I actually think it's a blessing in disguise, and that you should use that time to be like, no, here I am, and I'm still working out, and have this massive pregnant belly or whatever, but I'm still here, and I'm not doing anything near the workout that everybody else in the group is doing, but I'm still moving, and that's awesome. I think that those have all been opportunities for me to not compare myself so much. And obviously, the way we started this whole talk was me still comparing myself, so it's hard. And it's never going to be something that just completely goes away. One of the things that I've brought up in a very snarky, maybe the way that Jeb is talking about way on the Facebook group, because I am very sarcastic sometimes on the Facebook group with these things, is I've said to some dudes within street parking, it's like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to beat like these people that you don't know on the street parking leaderboard. Like, you don't know if that woman was breastfeeding her child at 3 a.m. in the morning, or what. Like, you don't know anything about these people. You don't know what's going on in their lives. You don't know if literally their kid was screaming, so they had to stop and help their kid put their shoe back on in the middle of the workout. Like, who are you comparing yourself to? You know nothing about what was happening. Your setup's completely different. The equipment that you're using is completely different, the whole thing. And so it's just kind of silly if you think about it, because there's nothing to win. And, something that I used to tell members of the gym, even back, again, in the days of when we were doing CrossFit and the open and everything, is nobody cares about your score except for you. Literally no one. Like, I couldn't tell you, and I was deep, deep into caring about the CrossFit Games because I was competing in it. I was working for it. I was tasked to announce it and know the stats. I couldn't tell you placings from the CrossFit Games when I was doing that now, because I don't care. Like, I cared enough because it was my job, but nobody cares. Nobody remembers that stuff unless you win and you're the winner of like a big competition. Nobody remembers and no one looks at it and cares. And I think we think people are thinking about us more than they actually are. And that's not just like a fitness and a scores thing. It's just how people, our lives, we're all the center of our own universe, of course, right? But remembering, like, why am I working out? Does it really matter if I beat Jeb today, or do I just need to get a good workout? And of course, like, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones to be stronger physically and mentally, just human beings. But that's it. That's as far as it ever needs to go.
Did that answer that question? Or
I think some people are having an issue with understanding just because you're having a little bit of a competition with friends, that doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. So it's about keeping the competition but not taking it to a negative place. And how do you manage that?
well, you got to put it this way. You got to take it back to, even your personal work environment, right? Sometimes, it's okay to have someone to chase at some points to help you push you out of your own comfort zone, right? Because you need as individuals, we need stressors in our life to overcome and to continue to grow as individuals. If you have nobody or nothing to chase, then you don't grow as an individual. And so for us, we understand that ultimately, again, scores don't matter. We like to use our environment to continue to grow as individuals. So here on this panel, we know our fitness ability. We're not going to come up to somebody who's just starting out and being like, okay, we're going to do this competition and you're going to do this workout the way it's written, and I'm going to do the same way. Cool, I won. Haha. All right, I'm good. You suck. That's not how we approach it, right? We want to make sure that, whoever we're working out with feels you adjust the workout towards them, and because we have experience, right? And that way it's that 50-50 balance of both of you and reaping the benefits of using each other to progress for that day.
I think it's really easy to recognize it too when it starts to go go south. I mean, I know street parking members who don't like each other because they think the other person cheats, and they've never even met each other, and they're frenemies on social media, and it's crazy to me. So if you're in the garage with your buddies and everybody leaves the garage every day that was awesome, thank you so much, man, I tried to keep up with you and I couldn't do it, or it's hey, do you think I should customize this workout so that I can keep up with you? If your buddy's no, you have to do it the way I do it, so it's a fair competition. Or if your buddy's more yeah, you use 75 and I'll use 95 because then we'll be closer together. That's where you can see if it's healthy or if it's more of a, hey, I'm just trying to beat you. Or if you're no repping somebody in the middle of your own burpees or something like that, that's getting into territory that is negative. And I think it's really easy to spot.
Did that help?
100%.
Perfect. Jeb, do you want to close something out? But I feel like we're pretty good time frame actually for today's episode. But
yeah, I mean, just on that, I was reminded of actually the word compete. It means to seek together. So that should be the goal if you're going to compete with somebody, is that the two of you are seeking together. You can't find that thing without them, and they can't find it without you. So if that's happening and you are finding some kind of growth and you're expanding your comfort zone as a result of competing with that person, then that's a win. If that's not happening, then find somebody else to compete with.
And especially if you find that the only time that you feel satisfied in your workout, in your daily Tuesday, January 19th workout, if you have to see that you beat another person to think of it as I got a good workout, I would say draw back from comparing yourself at all at that point and focus on you and defining what a good workout is another way.
all right. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close up this week's episode of the Coaches Roundtable. Thank you guys so much for catching this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody that you feel could listen to this and benefit from it. So we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks.
Yes, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another Coaches Roundtable. And join us live on Instagram so I can crush you.
Awesome. Take care.